Okay, so you know those moments in life where you need to decide something really quick, but you can't decide, so you flip a coin and you leave it up to the coin to decide. Yeah, I just had one of those moments, and basically, the story I'm about to tell, thank you, coin, that's all I can say. Okay, so this story takes place back in the summer of 2019. And yes, I know that was last year, but okay, if you so the first week of June was very weird, okay? It ended amazing, and it still is very amazing. The outcome of what happened in June is still amazing. But if you want to get down to it, this wouldn't have happened for reasons, and this is why. So, back up to February, I got a job as a waitress in a diner in my hometown. And basically, I by the time May and the early part of June came rolling around, I had been working there for close to 4 months. And basically, my youth pastor around March decided he was going to be doing the term thing in June. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, are you going? Last time he did this, he tried to get me to go, and I didn't go. This time, he was extremely determined to get me to go. And every single time he saw me, he asked if I had asked my boss if I could go. And every single time I came up with something of why I hadn't asked yet, instead of just saying, no, I don't want to go, and no, I'm not gonna go, because I'm not taking a whole week off and missing a whole paycheck just for some stupid thing. Because that was my outlook on it. And there were some things that happened at term that I'm really glad I went, because otherwise, I really couldn't imagine anything different if I hadn't gone, because I know exactly what would have happened if I hadn't gone, and I can't even think about that without almost crying. Okay, so about 3 weeks before, like maybe a few weeks before, like not exactly three. It might have been three, it might have been a little bit earlier than three. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my train of thought just flipped off the rail. But basically, it might have been a little bit before 3 weeks, but basically, very close to term, he somehow recruited, yes, he called it recruiting, he somehow recruited my boyfriend, Kyle, who had just come back to that specific church. Because there was a point in time where he moved to Kentucky and then he moved back but didn't go to BFC, and then he started coming back to BFC. But yeah, he somehow my youth pastor somehow recruited him for term. And then he looked at me and was like, "Hey, have you asked D?" And I'm like, D was my boss. And I'm like, "No, I haven't. I don't think, well, technically, should have said, no, I haven't, because I don't want to go. What I said was, she hasn't given me a straight answer. Yeah. I was so determined on not going. And he was like, okay, well, I have a spot reserved for you that no one else is allowed to have. Also, if God wants you up there, up there, wow. Okay, so basically, I thought it was going to be upstairs where our Sunday school class is going to be. Thankfully, it wasn't. Thank God it wasn't. But basically, he was like, if God wants you in that class, you're going to be in that class. And all I can explain is, you know those moments when someone's like, you're gonna get hit with karma, and you'll literally feel karma slap you in the face, but nothing's happened yet, but you know it's coming? Yeah, one of those moments happened, basically. So the next day at work, I hurt my knee. So basically, a few years prior to me working there, I had hurt my knee in dance and I had pulled my ACL. So my ACL was still recovering because I kept stressing it out. And what I didn't know, I mean, I should have known, but what I didn't think of was, if my ACL was that weak on a normal day basis, just turning or something simple like that could actually tear it. So the next day at work, I was walking out of the kitchen and my boss said something, and I turned and looked at her, and I just felt this ripping, popping feeling in my knee, and it just hurt. And she actually told me I was turning pale, but my facial expression didn't change. I was just turning pale. and she asked if I was okay if my blood sugar was dropping, because my blood sugar does drop at random times. And I said I was fine. I didn't tell anyone that I got hurt. I didn't even tell my mom. She wanted to know why I was limping. Oh, I don't know, my knee just hurts. Which wasn't weird, because my knee flared up a lot. And we just went on with our life, basically. And by Friday, after my shift, I couldn't walk on it. I literally walked out of as soon as the doors were locked, everyone was out, and I was doing my stuff, I basically cried at the amount of pain in my knee. And by the time I got home, I was in so much pain, I actually called my mom breaking down, like, this is what is going on. I can't move it. It's so swollen that I can't roll my pant leg up over it. And my work jeans were very loose. And needless to say, I was sitting in the ER, and in the ER, I texted my youth pastor saying, hey, guess what? I can't go back to work. I'm on crutches. I'll see you in term. And he's like, good, I'll see you in term. Good thing I got you a shirt. I asked your mom what your shirt size was. She said a 3X, because you liked oversized shirts. Thanks, Mom. Thank you, Mom. So basically, in the middle of May, I got put on crutches. By the beginning of June, I had been on crutches for basically 3 weeks at that point. And yeah, I was angry. Like, I legit was angry, because I'm always like, no, I'll do it myself, but I can't do anything by myself on crutches. I mean, like, I couldn't even go to the bathroom in Walmart by myself, because I would fall over if I wasn't careful. So basically, by the time term came, I got into the church building. There were 2 other people sitting there, and it consisted of Kyle and a girl named Cheyenne. And not to be confused with some people that I don't particularly like, but I can remember 2 people being there, and one of them was him, and they were all kind of like, what the heck? And of course, my youth pastor's son, who was there because his dad was his ride. But they were just like, what the heck? Because last time they saw me, I was perfectly fine and walking, and then I hadn't shown up to Sunday school in a few weeks, and then next thing they know, I'm on crutches. And yeah, and I actually had to leave early that day because of the fact I had an appointment with my doctor because of my knee. And I can remember sitting there being angry, and when lunch came rolling around, I was extremely angry because I got up, went out, and I was gonna get my own food, and someone asked if I needed help with my stuff. I said no, person being my boyfriend. And I was like, no, I don't need help. I dropped my stuff. And he's like, now do you want help? And I can remember thinking, I want to beat you with my crutch, but I'm not gonna. So I was like, yeah, sure, help me, whatever. I don't care. And I was mad, okay? Next day, thankfully, I wasn't on crutches, because I got taken off crutches, because the MRI that they did on my knee basically showed that, yes, I had stretched my ACL. I didn't tear it, but the biggest concern was the fact that my cartilage was rubbing up against more cartilage in my knee. Basically, there's a thing in your knee that has... I'm trying to explain this in the best way I can. Basically, cartilage was rubbing on more cartilage, and it was in a part that bends your knee. So there wasn't really any like muscle damage there, because all the muscles were fine, but it was just rubbing. And I had to go to physical therapy every 2 days a week. And that was that. Next day I showed up, I was on crutches, and by the 3rd day, I was basically not wearing my brace at all, and everyone was happy, except by the 3rd day, I found myself not being able to focus. Why? Because I was sitting next to my crush. My current crush. And that day at lunch, I realized what was happening, and I can remember slamming my head on the table, freaking out, going, no! And just giving in, because up until that point, I basically said, okay, I was basically a living Artemis. I revoked all feelings towards guys or girls. It didn't matter. I didn't want any feelings. And I gave it. So let me paint the scene, basically. We're sitting there for lunch, and I look up, and he looks up at me, and we look at each other, make eye contact, and then I realize what's going on, and I just slam my head down on the table and just cry. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Yeah, no." You know the TikTok that's like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. That was basically me. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, mm-hmm. Even though I was not okay, because I was mad. I was angry at myself for admitting that I had feelings, admitting to myself. I hadn't even said anything to him, admitting to myself that I had feelings. And something happened on the third day where he was really upset, and I ended up giving him my number, which he actually lost, because later he asked me for my number again, and I'm like, "Didn't I give you my number?" And he's like, "Yeah, I lost it though." His mom confiscated it. I honestly, yeah, no, I don't actually know if his mom confiscated it or not, but I'm like, yeah. But I was like, "Text me." I wasn't even flirting. I was just like, "Text me. I don't care. If you need to talk to me." I listen very well, actually. And that was that. And we went our separate ways that day. And by the next day, we didn't talk about the fact that I literally slammed my head down on a table on the third day. And basically, after term was up, I thought that was the end of it. I wouldn't have a crush because I wasn't seeing him every day. And the asthma strikes. Okay. And I was like, okay, I won't have a crush on him anymore because I won't be seeing him every day. Oh, I was wrong. I was so wrong. He went to work camp. I was here. I had to quit my job because my grades dropped in the process of getting my knee torn up and physical therapy and everything else. So here we are, end of June. He comes home. I'm like, "Yeah, no, what's up?" He's like, "Nothing much." He gets my number again, and we're talking, and then we're sitting there in between services, and we're talking, and he mentions he may or may not have gotten no-zoned by his crush, which at this point I get let down because I'm like, he doesn't like me. I can remember feeling like my heart drop when he's like, my crush no-zoned me, and I'm like, he doesn't like me. Of course he doesn't like me, you idiot. You liked him and he doesn't like you. And it took everything in me not to cry because he was upset, and I was just like, I was upset. And then he was like, "But I guess that's okay because, I mean, she wasn't my main crush." I was just like, "Oh, great. Now I'm going to hear about his other crush. Be the good friend. Just be the good friend. Don't flip out. Just." And then he was like, "I kind of like you." I was just like, hold up. My heart went from being completely smashed and going back to no feelings at all to, wait, he likes me? And in the moment, I literally got so excited, I forgot to say I liked him back. Like, nothing happened. I was just like, I have to go sit in big service. I'll see you later. And I think he was maybe playing that day? Was he playing that day? Okay, he was doing something with the band that day. I feel like he was doing something with the band that day because he was there for second service, because he doesn't always stay for second service, and I do know that. I was freaking out at this point because in my mind I was screaming, and because, yeah. So then he texts me, like, after church. My mom had a hair appointment. I'm sitting there in the middle of Ulta. He texts me and was like, "Had fun chatting with you." And we talked back and forth, and then at some point it clicked that I hadn't said I liked him back. And I literally looked up in the middle of Ulta and was like, crap! And my hairdresser, and my mom's hairdresser, my hairdresser has been doing my hair since I was 7 when I first got my hair cut. And she just looks at me, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, my crush told me he liked me and I didn't tell him back." And she's just like, everyone just face palmed. Anyone who heard that just was like. So I text him and I'm like, oh, by the way, I like you too. My actual text was, hey, when you said on the subject of crushes, I like you too. And I couldn't send it because I have been known to like someone. This is actually why I kind of said no feelings towards anyone, because I'd liked someone before when I was 13 and it was a stupid crush. This kid was a douche. And he was like, he led me on, first of all. He acted like he liked me too. And then when I told him I liked him, he and his friends laughed at me. So, yeah. So that's why I had no feelings for anyone for a while. But basically, I was like, I couldn't bring myself to send it because the last time I confessed something, someone laughed and I got hurt. And then my brother's like, oh, you can't send it? I'm like, no, I'm going to delete it. And my brother's like, no, you're not. And my brother reached over and sent it for me. Yeah, my brother almost got smacked. I wanted to die. And then 2.5 minutes later, I'm not kidding when I say 2.5 minutes later, he texts me back like, cool. And then I go into Walmart, and the last text I get from him before I went into Walmart, which if you don't know, Sebring Walmart has horrible cell service. It's like there are some spots that are like hot spots, and there are other spots that are just like dead in that store. So we were in one of the dead zones, and the last text I got from him was, do you want to be my girlfriend? And I'm like, I have to get out of here to answer this text. And as soon as I'm walking out, I receive a text that's like, sorry, I didn't mean to freak you out. And I'm just like, no, it was adorable. And yes. So when I say our literal relationship, getting together as girlfriend, boyfriend, was one of the most awkwardest encounters we've had with each other, I was not kidding. Because there was a point there where we were just like, no one texted. After I said yes, no one texted. I'm sitting there and it was like, it popped up as seen and I'm just like, oh crap. 10 minutes later, he texts me. He's like, cool. Yeah. So basically, and if I had not gotten hurt, I probably would not have gotten a boyfriend. And we to this day still joke about the fact that I was the meanest person when on crutches. Like, he was like, you yelled at me. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I wanted to beat you with my crutches, but I didn't. And he was like, why? Because I've seen you beat people up before. Why? I'm like, because you were too cute to beat up. Legit conversations that happened, though. Yeah. So that was when we started dating. And honestly, I would not trade anything for a do-over. Honestly, if I wanted a do-over, it would just to be get the feelings said quicker. I mean, literally, so I didn't have to slam my head down on a table and just go, why, God? Yeah. So that's the only reason I want to do over, is just to be like, hey, by the way, I like you. Like, you know. So, yeah. And now he's stuck with me. We have a running joke that's like, oh, yeah, I knew what I was signing up for. It was on the contract's fine print. Not really, though. We didn't have a contract. We literally just had flippin' text message, do you want to be my girlfriend? But that was when we got together. And I mistakenly said July 29th once to him. And he was like, no, you were in the ER with pneumonia on July 29th. It was June 29th. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, that was the story of the not fatal. It's obviously not fatal. But that was the story of June 29th, 2019. So, yep. I hope you guys enjoyed.